Hello everyone. I'm gonna give it a minute, see if more people pop in. So this is my first live video. So this will be fun. I've done a video before showing you how I do my roning. I thought I would make some live videos from start to finish, working on a model. This is Anise by, sorry, my connection cut up there. Yeah, so this is Anise by Jennifer Scott, and I will be painting her in a deep Dapple gray. So you guys saw my pole there, it's pretty split. So I'm thinking about I might be going with the light mane. We'll see. Either way, the Dapples are going to be pretty similar. So for most of the time, I will not be able to see if you guys are giving any comments. So sorry about that, the way my camera is angled. But if all goes well, I'll be saving this video and uploading to YouTube. So let me start by talking to you about some of my materials that I have. So to start with, Anise here is totally prepped and primed, so she's all good to go. And I'm working in oils. For the first layer of oils, I have found this to be the case. For whatever reason, something with the way the oils interact with the primer at that first contact, they dry super fast. So I don't ever plan to do much detail at all in the first layer. I just have to work really quickly to get a nice even layer down. I've heard some other artists mention that they have this problem as well. So this first video might not be super interesting because it's going to be pretty fast and rough, but in the spirit of showing you how to do this start to finish, that's what we're going to do. So to start with, this particular gray, and let me see if I can show you the image, or actually, if you guys probably saw this in my stories from before as well. I don't know, I don't think I can quite get this. Let me see if I can move my phone here. So I'm doing this, starting with this gray, and all of the grays that I have that sort of fit this. Similar coloring are very similar. They're a pretty, as far as the tone of the gray, they don't have much warmth. So I'm just using black and white, whereas, at least for this first layer, whereas sometimes I might build in some brown tones for a warmer gray. But for the first layer, I'm just using titanium white and bone black, and I use sometimes bone black, sometimes ivory black. I don't notice much difference. Okay, so now I'm also going to use some medium because I like to work my oils with, make them a little bit more fluid. So I use some, let's see if you can see, some refined linseed oil. And this will actually slow drying, but I don't want to just slow my drying. I like the consistency that this gives, but I don't actually want my paint to slow in drying. So I have historically added a drop or so of cobalt dryer, but I don't have any with me right now. So I actually just tried this morning. Let's see if you can see that. It's a Gulkid Light. And so this is another medium that also thins it, but it speeds the drying. Now I used just this in some oils this morning, and I liked the consistency. You can see it's pretty runny like the linseed oil, but I didn't like that I could really feel how fast it was drying, and I didn't like quite that speed, so I'm trying a combination of the two, which so far that has worked well. I'm just adding a little bit of that to my linseed oil. And mix those two together. So that's going to be my medium mixture that will add to all of my color mixtures. Okay, let me pop up here, see if anybody has any significant questions. Okay, so I want to build a variety of shades to work from. I'm going to start with a darker gray. I'm not going to use straight black at all this time. And another thing is that when you use oils for the first layer on white, they're always thin. Every layer is going to be thin. So you're never going to get the true depth of the color that you're putting on. And in fact, the darker that you go, the more chance it is to be a little blotchy looking. So I tend to tone that down just a little bit and aim lighter overall, knowing that I'll be building up to something darker. So you can see I'm getting just a little bit, let's see if I'm in, yeah, just a little bit more fluid than the straight sticky paint. And I always add just a little bit of medium. I don't ever want to go too runny, and the more medium you get, the thinner it's going to be. So I just like to add enough to get a consistency that I like. And certain colors require more to get to that texture because they're a naturally thicker consistency. Okay, I also want a really nice barely gray color. And again, I'm keeping this layer really simple. I'm not thinking too much about tone. Even though I said that this gray is a pretty even tone, there's not really a lot of warmth. I'm still going to add some of that variation of tone or temperature, some cools and warms, but I can think about that in subsequent layers. Okay, I'm going to bump that one a little bit. You can also definitely adjust things once you test it out a little bit on the model. Okay. Now my brushes that I use, I'll always walk you through those. For traditional, I like to have one, well, first off, this is a brand that I like using because they're pretty inexpensive, and I put my brushes through some wear and tear when I do this. So these are the silver white filberts, and these are the long handles. So here's another one, and also silver white filbert in a short handle. I like both of them, but note that whichever one you're getting is going to give you a different size, because these two right here, both number 4 and the silver white filbert, but very different sizes. Okay, so in the long handles, I usually like to have a 4 or a 6 for a model, or for a traditional size model. And then the 2 is a nice little bit of extra detail. Then going smaller, in the short handle, like the 4s and the, let me see, probably the 4s and the 2s are what I'd be most likely to use on a traditional. Yeah, there's a 2. So just depending on the kind of detail I want to do. And then I really like these mop brushes from Winsor Newton. This is a 3/4 inch. This is super soft, and this is what I take at the end of every painting session. I go over the model to smooth out any brush strokes and blend further. So I usually, if I'm doing a really shaded color that has a lot of color variation, I'll use multiple of each size so that I can switch between colors and not use the same brush in all colors. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with some of my first color. And pull her out of here. It's always a good thing when she sticks well. So now I'm starting with my 2 in the long handle, and I'll start with the skin around the muzzle and the eyes. And I'm never loading my brush up with color. I always just want a little bit on there. Just using this to dab the color on, making sure you're working it into all the different nooks and crannies. The more paint that you use, the more you risk having funny brush strokes that you then have to sand out, which is no fun. Trying to keep it within the camera. Okay, so there's that roughly applied. The basics, I mean, I'm just laying in the basics. The overall shape and feel of that might change. This first layer, just getting the basics in. So filling inside her ears. So now this is it. There's a good illustration. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but already I just did that muzzle here, and as I wipe it, it's sort of lifting up. That tells me that it's already getting tacky. And so anytime your paint is getting tacky, trying to work over it will only start lifting up the paint. So I'm gonna right away take one of my mop brushes, and this is a little bit smaller one, 5/8, saving my bigger one for the overall body. And I just literally mopped this over all of the color in it, and it will pick up some of the color, leave it a little bit blotchy, but that's okay. I would rather blotchy color that I know I can cover than brush marks that won't be covered with just color. And again, I always expect the first layer to be pretty blotchy.